Hi, and welcome to another episode of Book Drops. I'm Sarah Flynn. I am the manager of the Popular Library, and I have a guest co-host today.
Hi, my name is Ron Roberts. I'm the manager at Brooklyn Branch, and I'm glad to be here.
Oh, good. So Ron and I are going to talk about some of our favorite mysteries. So each of us, we actually already started before we turned on today because I saw some of his choices and he saw some of mine. So I think we're gonna have fun comparing.
Yes. Hopefully we won't go off on too many tangents like we did in the warm-up. So
Nice. And we are in kind of a little bit of a new location. We're in the Special Collections area, Maine, downtown. Normally we're in the treasure room, which is behind us, but it's occupied right now, so we get a new kind of view today. So I'm going to start off with one that I actually haven't read, but I've watched the show, so a little bit of cheating, but I thought it was an original show. I didn't know there was a book, so once I saw there was a book, now it's on my list.
okay.
But it's codename Villanelle, and it's by Luke Jennings. Sorry, it's kind of got glare on it. And this is what Killing Eve was based off of.
Okay, all right.
Which, if you've heard, it's it stars Sandra Oh and Jodie Comer. And it is a fantastic show. Jodie Comer is an assassin. And beyond that, she kills really high profile people, and she's a literal psychopath.
Okay.
Just crazy, but very good at her job. And Sandra Oh works for MI6, and she is tasked with tracking her down and capturing her.
Okay.
And I think it's in its fourth. I'm behind. So I've seen 2 seasons. I think 3 is out and 4 is coming out soon. So I've got to catch up. And now I have to read the book.
Okay. Well, I lost track of Sandra Oh after Grey's Anatomy, so I need to catch up. So Killing Eve will be on my list.
I have to say, I didn't watch Grey's Anatomy, so she was kind of like, this was my introduction to her.
Okay. Well, it's worth watching. But anyway, before I deviate too far. All right. Well, I'm a James Patterson reader, and in particular, the Alex Cross series. And so Fear No Evil is the latest installment of that series. And in it, Detective Cross is in yet another predicament. Now, what I like about how Patterson has worked with the Alex Cross character is evolved beyond just Cross and his being matched up against the various criminal geniuses that he's frequently encounters. In this one, he's really making a point of trying to bring other family members. Some of you who are familiar with his work know that the youngest son has started to do his own sleuthing, and then he's married to his wife. Bree is also involved in doing police work. So it's interesting to see how he has these different story elements that come together, because as he and Samson, who's ongoing character in the series, are dealing with a situation, then Bree is called and she goes over to Europe and she's involved. And then there's even a storyline with Damon, the youngest son. And so all of these sort of coincide, and I admit I was a little kind of disappointed that he kind of wrapped all these loose ends up in a way that I guess I didn't think was as well as I would have expected. Mm-hmm. But in the end, I still enjoyed it, and it was a enjoyable listen. So nice. Fear No Evil, James Patterson.
It's a formula that works, obviously.
Yes.
Because do you know which book that is out of the
That
series?
is number 29, I believe.
My gosh, that's
yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes. So I admit the movies, and it's amazing, because the movies going back to and I'm about to date myself a little bit, but going back to the late 90s with Morgan Freeman playing Alex Cross, is what hooked me. And so I started reading, and then, with technology, I've been listening to all my fiction, but Alex Cross, Fear No Evil, a read I would definitely recommend.
Oh, nice. And I was going to say too, sometimes people that I'll talk to out in the community, will say, oh, I have a subscription for audiobooks and things like that. I'm like, don't do that. So I always am talking about Libby and
Yes,
get
yes.
Libby on your phone and download your audiobooks from the library.
Yes. Yeah, well, I guess if we're going to take little plugs for the
Yeah,
library, let me also
yeah,
mention
so while we're
Hoopla.
here, definitely.
Yeah, so if you can't find it on Libby, Hoopla is another valuable resource in terms of trying to find audiobooks that you can listen to. So, all right.
Good. Hey. So what do I have next? It's hard to choose my lineup. Okay, I'm gonna do The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. And this one was made into, I have a lot of show tie-ins. This was made into a TV show last year, a TV movie on Netflix with Amy Adams. So the premise is, it's great. I did this on audio and it was great on audio. She is agoraphobic.
Okay.
So she's in her house and has split with her husband. The husband has the daughter, and she kind of has a funny flow where she's interested in what's going on in the neighborhood and kind of knows these people are moving in here, this person, because she doesn't have much going on in her own life, she kind of spies on everyone and occasionally is talking to the ex and the daughter, drinks too much, is not taking care of herself, and sees something out the window that she should not have seen in another building across the way. So just gets so upset and has a hard time, to not give anything away, has a hard time telling people what she saw and that she's sure it's real. It wasn't just, her imagination. And so, the cops come by, oh, are you sure you saw this? And it's really terrifying because you can put yourself in her place that no one is believing you. And so there's a lot of action in it and it's really fun.
Now, have you watched the movie?
I did.
Okay. So,
yeah, it was pretty good adaptation. Yeah.
Okay.
I hate to say some things were a little different than I had pictured, but it was nicely done.
Okay. As you were talking about that, I thought about, because Sigourney Weaver some years ago did a movie that has some elements that are similar to that. So I have to keep that in mind.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
Okay.
It's good.
All right. Well, okay. I guess on to my next mystery read. Over the past few years, I've become a David Balducci fan, in particular the Memory Man or Amos Decker series. Now, I guess what kind of hooked me with it is when I started reading the first one. Amos Decker is a former NFL player and he's a policeman. And so as a sports fan, of course, that the NFL player was like, okay, how did he transition? But you find out that Decker, he suffers almost what you could say a traumatic brain injury, but instead of it damaging and causing him some irreparable harm, it actually enhances his memory so that he remembers everything. And so that becomes something that I guess we would understandably see helps in police work. And so anyway, this is the 5th book in the series. Yes, the 5th book. And so in this one, he and his sidekick, oh gosh, man, I'm drawing a blank on their name. It'll come to me. But they are investigating some happenings in North Dakota, of all places. And who would have thought North Dakota would be a setting for a mystery? But and you see some intrigue with the whole government and their involvement in some things that are undermined in this community. And so this one probably didn't captivate me as much as some of the earlier books, but because I've been hooked by the series, I continue to read it. One of the aspects that I have to admit, and even though I read my mystery and enjoy much of what I read for the action, because of he and his sidekick's relationship, and because you find out early on in the series that he loses his wife due to a murderer who had come in and killed her. And so his sidekick, who clearly seems to be interested, I'm always wondering when are they going to develop their romantic interest, and it never seems to come to play. But I'm waiting because I'm sure at some point maybe Balducci will allow that element to develop. And not that I'm necessarily need that to enjoy it, but
see it coming.
I can see it coming. So
nice.
So
and he has have you done any of his other series?
I started, oh gosh,
Not to put you on the spot.
that's okay. Put me on the spot. It's the one with, oh gosh, the main character is former military. He has a brother who is incarcerated. And so that just sort of caught my interest because I just wanted to see, and apparently the brother has been incarcerated for something that is kind of questionable if he really was responsible for. And so I had started that one, and so it didn't catch my interest and hold my attention as much as Memory Man with Amos Decker, but that was one series that I started out because I wanted to see if the elements that drew me to the Amos Decker character continue with the next one. So
nice. I've got a detective. So this is an old school one that I'm pulling out, which is Robert B. Parker's Spencer series. If you remember, old enough to remember Spencer for Hire. This is, I looked it up before I came up because I knew I was going to forget, but I think there's at least 49 Spencer books. And my grandmother and aunt and mom would just pass, like as soon as one came out, it would just get passed around the whole house. So I got inducted into their little club when I was in high school and started reading them. And this is one that still stands out to me, is Early Autumn. So Spencer is a private eye in Boston. And this is kind of the 70s. So there's some, a little bit of like dated stuff in it in that, I don't know. I was just like kind of reading through a passage, even like, news stuff and things like that too. Just if that bothers you all, but so he's a detective. He's set in Boston. He has a few different people who help him. His girlfriend, Susan, who helps him a lot. And then he has a sidekick, Hawk. And so this one is fantastic. It's a divorced couple and they're feuding over the son. And they're both just terrible people. And the son is he's scrawny and doesn't have any opinions about anything and is just sad. And Spencer's protecting him because there's just all of this drama going on with the family. And he ends up kind of mentoring this kid and teaching him, like nobody's teaching him how to like be a man or how to grow up, how to become who you want to be. And there's so many good scenes in this where I just flipped through today and there's one where the kid he just wants to like sit and watch TV and not do anything. And he like grabs him and throws him in the shower and, teaches him, how to like, they go and work out and he's building a cabin for the girlfriend. So, he teaches them, a lot of things like that. And it's just fantastic.
Well, now, as you're talking about that, it made me think about even with the two authors that I mentioned, and the whole aspect of the human side of the characters that the authors bring out. And even as much as I'm an action junkie in terms of just wanting to see, because with Patterson, his chapters are real short, so it's like bam, bam, and you just kind of moving through the book so quickly. But even with that, just some of the development with the characters and relationships with families and others. I mean, because when you mentioned the mentoring piece with the Spencer character, because having grown up watching the TV series with Robert Urich, and I admit Avery Brooks became my favorite actor watching Spencer because Spencer. But anyway, with that said, that whole aspect of the human development, because even with Amos Decker character that I mentioned with Balducci, in the midst of the whole crime fighting and him trying to, find out what's going on with the main plot element, there's still this whole undercurrent of him and just trying to get over the trauma of losing his wife, and just even the whole aspect of he's become so unemotional because of what he suffered with the brain injury. And so while we would say, wow, remembering everything is so great, but he's become so detached from his emotions. And so part of what happens with him, and even why I alluded to the whole thing with his partner, is how she helped him to become more reconnected to his emotions and to be more compassionate and caring, where he was almost so robotic. So that human element is something that I find interesting that
And
comes out.
that's what I can say. Even to this day, I remember, I feel like I know him. You know, he goes, there's just silly extra things that stick with me. For a while, there was a thing that like, oh, coffee was really bad for you. So the girlfriend's trying to get him to only drink decaf. So he's like grumpy because he's only drinking decaf, just little things like that. He's a great cook. He's pretty sensitive for like the typical like PI guy that you're thinking of. And he and Susan have a lot of ups and downs. They're together and not together throughout the series. And you really feel like you know him. So
Okay.
great if you haven't done those.
All right. Well, okay. I hope you'll forgive me. I went off the mystery path a little bit, but as I was reflecting about some things I've read, and an author that I've come to enjoy, and if you're into action horror with a little bit of intrigue, Jonathan Mayberry is an author that I would like to recommend. Now, these two books are part of his Pine Deep series. In it is part of the whole zombie piece. Now, if you're sick and tired of zombies, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just tell you a little something about zombies. And with this, the premise starts with a convicted criminal who's injected with something that's going to make him a zombie. But the doctor who does it injects him because he feels that it's his penance for being such an evil person. And the doctor is thinking that he's going to be buried and have no way of getting to someone. But a loving aunt decides that she wants the body and is taken back to Pine Deep. And hence we have the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse that takes place that ravages the world. Now, here's the interesting part, because how I got introduced to this series was because of a young adult fiction series called Rotten Ruin that Mayberry had written. And so I read the 4 books of that. And so I was kind of curious as to the context. And so these books with the Pine Deep series form the background for what happens with Rotten Ruin, which happens so many years in the future after the Pine Deep series. So it's interesting to see how Mayberry takes things from different series and different things he's written, because even with the Rotten Ruin series, he introduces a character named Joe Ledger, which there's a number of books, and I've read a few of those. And Joe Ledger is this cop who becomes part of this special unit that goes and fights and deals with situations that emerge that could be life-threatening to the entire world. And so that character becomes part of this as well. So Mayberry is one. So it's not quite a mystery, but it was just something that kind of caught my interest. And if you like a little blood and gore, this Pine Deep series definitely has its moments that stack up in that area.
Nice. I have a few questions. What type of zombies are these? Now, are these like Walking Dead, like completely just nothing behind the eyes zombies, or are these?
Okay, and the initial person, the criminal who gets, who starts the spread of this, he's actually conscious and has awareness of what he's doing, and is very intentional in terms of making others zombies. But everyone who's turned, they are not conscious or aware. Well, for the most part, they aren't. There is, the author seems to give you an idea that there's a little spark of something that remains. In fact, even with the way in which the characters, the people who are dealing with them perceive them, there's always that question, is there a little spark of humanity still there? So I'm glad you asked that. Yes.
And then also, I want to know the difference between the YA and the adult books. Is there like different with violence? Is there a difference with that you could discern?
Okay. Yes. And in fact, this series definitely stronger with the violence. I mean, because even in listening to it, you get such a strong sense of how harsh and cruelly the persons are being killed and dealt with. Whereas with the YA series, even though there's that zombie piece, it's not as gory. And then there's also an aspect with the YA piece with Rotten Ruin that the author has the characters, because the main characters in the YA series, they're dealing with understanding how to humanely deal with the zombies in terms of even ending their life. And even though they recognize the need to do so. In fact, one of the conflicts, and honestly, I have to say the YA series was very intriguing because I thought what the author was trying to do in terms of talk about compassionate treatment of those who, even though they may from the surface seem beyond help, but still compassionately and humanely dealing with ending their existence is such an intriguing ideal. And for it to be a YA something, it just seems like he was definitely trying to do something to spark young adult readers and those who read it in general about the whole ideal of how you view life in general, regardless of what that person may have done and how out of reach they may appear to be. So there's that whole aspect of the humanity piece. And so a lot of elements there that I think definitely are worth the adult reader as well as the young adult.
Oh, that's nice. For Walking Dead, I was, so into Walking Dead for a few years and then just kind of fell off. So it's kind of nice for, to have like an option, because now I might have to read those. But yeah, for, fans of that, to like kind of have like a continuation or something else to try.
Well, I think part of what has helped even me in terms of even watching The Walking Dead was having read that and just wanting to see how different media portrays the whole way in which people deal with the threat of the zombies. And and I admit I did not watch The Walking Dead for any number of years, and then finally my teen daughter got me hooked, and so then I started binging it, and so I got up to season 8, and so I need to keep going and finish it out now.
I'm not sure which one. I think maybe 5. I don't know, 4 or 5 maybe.
You gotta go further.
Now I should go back.
You gotta go further because and I guess that's the other piece is, and even with the books, just the whole way in which how the dealing with the zombies impacts them in terms of their relationship with other people. Because even with the series, there's a whole aspect of when they are trying to come back and be part of a community of people who are living normally, so to speak. And and even with the books, there's the whole thing of how do you go on with life and try to function in a normal fashion. I know, and I guess, and without getting too much into social commentary, I guess in light of what's going on today with COVID and how we try to resume life normally, whatever that may mean, I think it is really an intriguing question. And I think beyond just the blood and gore and the stuff that people may perceive, I think there's that aspect that really has some interesting things for us to consider in this day and age.
How you treat other people.
How you treat other people.
Yeah. Well, that is good because it gives me a good intro into one of mine, which was checked out, so I couldn't show you the actual book. But it's Paul Tremblay who wrote this one too, the Survivor Song, which people have differing opinions whether they want to read about a pandemic during a pandemic, but this is kind of a zombie pandemic, which is like a rabies kind of virus that starts going around, and it moves fast. This woman, she's 8 months pregnant. She and her husband are just starting to hear about, kind of mumblings about like violent things happening, and he goes to the grocery and comes back. They have an intruder, and the husband, and it's one of these infected people who look zombie-like. This is like first few pages. Husband gets attacked. She has to run, and this woman, you just can't believe. So she is on the run. Her best friend is a pediatrician, so she's trying to get, to her best friend because it's safe. Okay. There's a hospital. They can figure out what to do, and she got bitten too. So there's this whole other element. So it's fast paced, it's scary. You can feel every emotion both of these women are feeling. And then while the doctor's kind of dealing with these roadblocks and all of these things they have to go through, the main woman, she's on her cell phone, she's recording for her unborn child just in case she doesn't make it, and leaving all of these little messages because she knows it's so dangerous. So it has just such a mix of emotions in it, and
Wow.
it's great.
That's as you're saying that, it made me think, and forgive me for segueing back to my Rotten Ruin, but the main character in that series, he's dealing with his brother, has some feelings with his brother because he thinks his brother's a coward because he just has recollections of his brothers letting their mom be bitten. And so he just thinks his brother was a coward. And later on, he finds out that the mom was actually pushing the son to escape because she was being bitten by their father. And so there's that whole dynamic of him dealing with his emotions and realizing his brother is more heroic than he realized. And so when you said that, I thought about that. So you give me yet another one to consider.
Gosh,
Jeez.
God.
I don't have enough time to read all these, Sarah.
You
Jeez.
just put it in a little list.
Now, so you got Odd Thomas here,
Yeah,
so I want to hear what you got to say about that.
This is great because we got to talk about this a little beforehand. So Odd Thomas was one of my picks, which Dean Koontz, if you haven't read, is a great thriller writer. I don't think you hear about him as much anymore. I think he was very big in like the 90s, early, this is like early 2000s.
Yeah, I read Koontz in the 90s, and so I kind of fell off after that. So
yeah, Watchers is a great Koontz book. There's so many. Odd Thomas is a character, and he can speak with the dead. Of course, it's still a little fuzzy, but really fantastic, really like a nice mix of supernatural but touching and humorous. There's like there's a ghost of Elvis that like is around, that like hangs around.
Oh, really?
Just like kind of funny extra stuff like that, which I remember.
Okay, my limited exposure just through the movie, it did not, I don't remember that aspect being alluded to or talked about that much. So after.
So, and I haven't seen the movie, so I want to hear about the movie.
So, you get the whole thing with the main character and his being able to speak to the dead. And I guess the whole, tragic or irony is then you get to the end and, he has the discovery about someone who's very close to him. And so I'll kind of leave that to those who haven't read it to read it, or haven't seen the movie to find out. But, there's that whole revelation of what's been going on, and he finds out something that's very significant. But, as I've come to discover, the movies aren't as nearly as good or as in-depth, but just a whole way in which the main character deals with how he uses his gift, and then how he deals with other people and their perception of him. Because, it's not just even in dealing with the dead talking to you or being able to hear them, but then even in terms of others and how they are perceiving you, and how you continue to engage them, and at least try to not be considered too odd, if I may borrow from
yeah. And it's, people would think, oh, it's a gift or it's something special, but it really is a curse in his case. And we were talking in the movie, Anton Yelchin plays him, who was Chekhov in the newer Star Trek movies, and who unfortunately passed away very young.
Yes. And so I won't dig up the whole Trek discussion that we were having earlier, but maybe that would be another. Yeah, we'll have to come back and we'll have to do the whole Star Trek.
Star Trek series, like first to last.
Oh, well.
I mean, you don't have to now. If you come back, I think we need to
I got my opinions. Yes.
Yeah. We were just talking about Discovery and what we think of Discovery. So I think we could have a Star Trek episode easily.
I'm in.
And I was worried we weren't going to fill up our time, and we just talked right up to 5:30. So I want to thank you so much for being my guest today and joining me. And I hope you come back.
I will. This is fun. I enjoyed it.
Isn't it a flyby? Once you start talking, it's like a half hour is nothing. All right. Thanks so much.